This is Angelo Pizzula, manager of the Oral History Program on board the Battleship New Jersey in Camden, New Jersey. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. Our interview guest is George Stroppel from Midland, South Dakota. Welcome home, Mr. Stroppel.
Thank you.
Okay, before we get started, I will ask a favor. Could you please remove your hat? Thank you. Okay, so first question is, what is your current age?
91.
91. And how old were you when you enlisted?
17.
And when did you enlist?
September 4th, 1943.
Okay, and you were only 17 when you joined the Navy?
Yep.
All right. So what inspired you to join the Navy?
I think it was when I was about 4 years old. I went on board the ship. I remember seeing those sailors. And I just kind of remembered that. I always had a love for water, and that was what inspired me, I believe.
Okay. And how did you get in the Navy? Where did you go for your induction and then...
A friend of mine came home from being out on the coast, Edison Zeeman, and he'd been out there working in the shipyards during the war there, and during our summer vacation, we were both the same age. And he seen me on the street and he said, "Let's join the Navy, George." So I did. I said, "Sure." So I went and talked to Dad. Dad was he didn't really let me go. I talked him into signing the papers so I could join. From there we got on the train there in Midland, went to Rapid City to the Navy inductor, and then we went home and got our stuff in line. Then we went back. We had a slight physical there, and then they shipped us to Omaha, and we went through a full physical. From there they sent us up to Farragut, Idaho, to the boot camp, and I just have a hard time. Harding, it seems like, was the name of the camp I was in, and I think there was about 10,000 personnel in Farragut during the war. It was a boot camp that Mrs. Roosevelt was supposed to have picked out because there was a big lake right near there. And from boot camp, well, we got 15-day leave. We came back, was in OGU, and they put me through gunner's mate school. It was either a 6 or 8 week. From there, went to, they shipped 10 of us down to Hawthorne, Nevada, to the ammunition depot down there. It was the second largest one in the world. And I was there either 8 or 9 months, and they shipped several of us out and over to OGU in San Jose, California. And there we got on to a troop ship, about 10,000 of us, and went over to Ulithi. From there I got on the New Jersey and finished out the war on it. We went through, the first trip, we went up into the Chinese Ocean, and I don't know why we were there, but the whole task force was. We seen there were several Jap planes came over us, and they knocked them down. And then we got back to Ulithi, and the next trip out, we went up to Iwo Jima and bombarded it for 3 days before they went in and invaded. We went back to Ulithi, and it seemed like we went out on a cruise, the task force, and came back, and then we went to Okinawa and we bombarded that for 3 days solid. And they invaded, and the New Jersey got a flat shaft, and we had to go to Bremen and Washington and put it in dry dock, and they overhauled it. And the 3rd of July, we left there and went down to Long Beach Harbor, or Long Beach Harbor, yeah. And we was there over the 4th of July, and they wouldn't give us a liberty because some of the guys from the New Jersey done about $10,000 worth of damage in a bar in Bremerton there, and so we didn't get to go on liberty. And there we went out and had a shakedown over to Wake. We bombarded Wake just for practice. By the time we got to Saipan, the war was over. The Japs had surrendered. From there we went up through the Philippines and on up into Japan, and so I think it was in the first part or the middle part of September that we got there to help with the occupation, and they moored us to a buoy there, and I was one of them that went down on that buoy and hooked the anchor chain to it. And then I was put on boat duty, and I served on that until we got ready to come home. And then just a few days before we left, I had an accident and broke my back, and so I was in sick bay for several days, and then we got I was on side boy duty and sleeping the officers, and one of the officers told me to pick up a couple of bags, and I did. And when I did, I felt something just ripping my back, but I carried the bags back to the aft gangway, came back, and my back was hurting pretty bad by the time I got done, and they took me off duty, and when we got to Long Beach, they put me in the Long Beach hospital. And during my tour, we was up in that China Sea, and we was in a terrible typhoon, and the water was coming up over the number 2 turret, and we got through that without too much damage. There was some damage done to the one of the 40 mounts, and the weather ring around the number 1 turret was tore loose, tore off, and gone. And I guess that about done with that. I've done about 5 months in the hospital in Long Beach where they discharged me.
Okay. I'm going to backtrack a little bit because that was a great overview, but I want to get into a little more detail. First of all, do you have any good stories from boot camp that you remember?
Well, not especially. We went down to that lake one time. We marched over there. It was about 3 miles from the camp down to that lake. We marched down there, and we got in a whale boat. And they put us on the oars and paddled around there as best we could, and come back. And I didn't have any problems. They had me on lifeguard when I was in boot camp for a week. That work week I was on, and they had me on lifeguard. One of the incidents, there was a guy jumped off of the 1 meter board, went straight to the bottom, and there he sat. And so we was poking him with these rods that we had, the poles that we had about 20 foot long, and he wasn't coming up. So two of us jumped in and we went down and we just brought him up and brought him to the shore or to the edge of the pool. And I never did know why he'd done that and what happened to him. It was just one of the personnel from one of the companies that done that. And that I think was probably about as exciting as we got there. I do remember that I never could march right. So when the time come around for the captain's review, I was on guard to a coal, where they kept coal. So I got out of it.
There you go. All right. You said you went to gunner school. Is that an A school?
Gunner's mate school there.
And that's an A school?
That an A school.
A school.
What do you mean?
That might be a term that was after your time. A school is usually like first training.
Yeah.
So you were gunner's mate. Okay.
What they done, they started out with a .45 revolver and a Tommy gun, the old Springfield rifle. You took them apart, you put them together. You learned all the parts, and with all those guns. Then, let's see, we had a 20 millimeter, I think, was next. And we done that with that. We learned all the parts, how to take them apart, how to repair them. The 40s the same way, and the 5-inch 38, or 5-inch, 38, that was the same thing. We learned all that. We learned the 16s, about the only thing that we learned about it was the liquid, the recoil liquid, how to make that liquid. And then they sent me down to Hawthorne, Nevada, and that was an ammunition depot. It was the second biggest depot in the world as far as I was told. And we handled all kinds of ammunition, powder, smoke pots, 300-pound smoke pots. We took and fired off, I suppose, I don't know how many thousands of rounds of empty cartridges, 3-inch 50. They'd taken the projectile out, and we was firing off the primer. And they give us a brass hammer and a brass chisel, or a punch, and you sit there and you hit that. The guy'd put a bullet or a cartridge, the cartridge down. You'd hit that and they'd throw it away, and another one would set another one down. You'd sit doing that, and I said, "This is too slow." I went over to the dunnage pile and I got a 4x4 or a 1x4, and I drove 5 holes through it with a nail. I got the nail so you could work it, and I made the form for the shell to fit in, and we just slapped 5 of those, and then I just go down through it and I hit those nails and fire them off, and man, we really went through it. Well, we did. We got to go to Reno, Nevada for the weekend. They took us up there in a semi, we called it the cattle wagon, and had a good time.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So after that, when did you first find out you were going to be assigned in New Jersey, and what was your reaction?
Well, I was pretty upset because I wanted to be on a destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
And after I got on there, and I seen what those destroyers went through, and the weather wasn't really too rough, and there'd be 3 foot of water over their deck, and we wouldn't hardly be. They'd holler up, "How's lamb duty up there?" Yeah. When we were refueling them. Mm-hmm. And so I liked it after I got used to it. I could see our advantages in that. Yeah. So it left a kind of a good place in my heart. I always wanted to come back and see it.
Great. Actually, my next question was, when you, for the first time, when you saw the New Jersey, either on land or approaching it, what was your reaction? The first time you saw the New Jersey.
Well, I really didn't know. It was setting off from a troop ship that I went over on. It was setting off probably a mile and a half or so from us, and we just got used to seeing it. Of course, when they took us over there on the I don't remember, it was one of those landing crafts anyhow, that they took us over there. And of course, the closer you got to it, the bigger it was. And but I was pretty disturbed that I was being put on the. And when I got on there, well, they assigned me to the 1st Division, and about all the first week that I was on there, well, it was just scratch paint and paint, just hose down the deck, and just maintenance work, cleaning it up. That was about the size of it. Well, then we went up to the China Sea. We went into a task force, and it seemed to me like it was Halsey that was the admiral. And we went up there. We went through this storm, and we seen a few Jap planes, and they didn't get away. We came back, so I think I went through this before.
Mm-hmm.
But then we went out, we done the Okinawa and Iwo Jima, and then we went within about 60 miles of the shore of Japan and sent planes in from the task force and bombed Tokyo and Yokohama, I guess, and we got very little resistance. And we went back to Ulithi, and then they sent us back to Bremerton for that overhaul.
Right. So during your time on board, you saw some action. You said Okinawa, Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
But I want to go back and just kind of reflect on everyday life. Like between battles, what was it like?
It was pretty much as every day. You stood your 4-hour watch. You was on some gun. At least I was. And sometimes we was on the same one on occasion. Sometimes we was in others. Seemed like I was mostly on those 40 millimeter on the 4-hour watch, because we was 4 hours on and 4 hours off. And that was the way it was. Well, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, if you wasn't on watch, you was either painting, scraping paint, chipping paint, or something like that. Sometimes it would be cleaning a gun. They might be swabbing out the 16-inch, and they'd have a long rope that you'd pull the swab through it, and it'd take quite a few men to do it. So you'd be on that maybe. But it was just things like that was an everyday deal.
Now, for general quarters, when we talked before the interview, you worked in the Turret 1 powder flat?
Yeah,
and what were some of your other general quarters duties, and what did that consist of, and what was that was like?
The general quarters mainly was powder room. When general quarters sounded, I'd head for the powder room, and it seemed to me like I went to the same powder room quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And for 70 years, you kind of lose it. But then I think it was after we'd been in dry dock and out that I was put through on the projectile ring for a while. Then they put me up in the turret, and I was on as primer man.
Mm.
And it was just things like that that went on.
Right.
It got pretty regular after the Japs went over. Things were pretty well. Then when we got over into Japan, over in the harbor there, we were probably about a mile or so from Yokosuka, and this was where the two-man subs they built. I think they built them there somewhere, and there was a couple of those two-man subs sitting there in the dock. And then they had a one-man sub, a suicide sub they called it, and it was there. I can't remember too much. It just it seemed to me like the one that was there had a kind of like a conning tower on it where the guy sat in it. But then they had those that they laid down in. You know, they was on their belly. And they would guide it to the ship or whatever they were going to torpedo. And that was kind of interesting.
To say the least.
And I remember a hill there at Yokosuka that was just plumb full of caves, tunnels all through that thing. And they said the Japs had guns sitting in those tunnels. They'd run them out, and, you know, for protection. If we invaded, they would be able to raise heck with us. But I don't think they ever had to use them unless they were anti-aircraft or something like that.
Now, while we were down in the powder magazine earlier, you talked about the taking them out of the canisters. Can you describe that real quick? Because that was something we could use here for our tours.
Well, when we went down into the powder room the first time, well, the coxswain or the gunner's mate, whoever was in charge, he told us, he said, now be careful when you take those lids off. He said, you crank them quarter return. And he said, be careful because they'll have pressure. They could have pressure in them. And like down around, you want to spread your legs wide enough so that when it comes off, it'll go between your legs. I found out real quick what the man meant. I got my legs spread plenty wide apart when I get down on that bottom row. Otherwise, it was awkward on that bottom row. The rest of them, you could hold it pretty much and let it out so it didn't. But you had to be careful when you got up around your head or above your head that it didn't come out and smack you in the face. And that was the ether in it that built up. And it was kind of dangerous.
Right. Well,
and you'd take those bags out and you'd put them in a copper trough, and you get 3 of them, and they'd send it up. There was the elevator was big enough to hold 3 at a time, and there was 2 of those trays, and they would go up to the gun, and they would get in position, automatically get in position, and then the ram would take and ram them in, and then the other one would come up, and they'd ram those 3 in. And then they would take and close the hatch, and the primer man would put a primer in, close that, then you got out of the way and they fired.
so the primer man is actually under the gun, correct?
He
Like
was
you have the
behind.
breech down, so you're actually putting it at the bottom of the breech, and then the breech closes?
Well, what I remember of it was it seemed to me like there was the breech.
Mm-hmm.
It went in and made a quarter turn, if I remember right. It was what they called the Wellington screw. There was intermittent threads. And this primer seemed like there was a little door on it that about the same way, and somewhere or another, I know you put that primer in, you had to do it very fast and get that door closed, and then you got out of the way because that gun was going to come back. And you fire. I just went through dummy drills.
Okay.
I never was there when that was fired.
Oh, okay.
But that was the way it was done. There was the three guns. There was a primerman on each one, and I can't remember for sure. Just the projector went in, and then there were 6 bags, and it just seemed to me like the primer was the last thing before they fired it. Put that in. And this primer, it was, what I remember, it seemed like it was between maybe 3/4 to an inch in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brass, and it was all full of holes. And it was full of black powder. Well, on the end of it, the primer looked like a shotgun shell primer. Now this had fulminated mercury in it. Very, very explosive. This would fire off from the hammer, and the charge of black powder would take off. It would go through and into the chamber and set the smokeless powder on fire, and or charge, and that's the way it done. Now the bombardment at that time, it might be different today, but there was 2 different projectiles. There was what they called a bombardment, and it was, I think it was around 2 tons, right around that. And this powder was just poured into the bag. It weighed about 65 or 70 pounds. And you fired that. Well, the your armor piercing projectile weighed awful close to a ton and a half. I think it was somewhere around 28, 28.
Yeah, 27, 28, yeah.
And the powder bags, all the powder were about the size of my finger. And they had holes. I used to know how many it was, but there was, seemed to me like there was 13 holes around the outside, or 14, and then in the center there was 1 hole through, just about the size of the end of a needle, all the way through, and these would set end to end. They would fire quicker, and they had more power. And you had a lot more. I think you said that one of those bags weighed 110 pounds.
That's the general weight we give to our guests, yes.
Yeah. And they were a firm bag. And that would propel the 2700, 2800, whatever it was, of the armor piercing projectile.
Yeah. So, while we're still talking about your service on in New Jersey, were there any ports of call that stand out, or what was your favorite port of call during that time?
I don't know. I done about everything. I went over the side and striped paint on it when we were underway. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I done the Jusel, cleaning the ship, keeping the ship clean, doing it. We had a laundry on there, so we didn't have to do our laundry.
Right.
And then they sent me down to the chief's quarters for, I don't know, it seemed it was after the war, I think. And we'd done the chief service, and then the chiefs would take up a collection and would divide it between, I think there was 4 of us that took care of that, and they would take up a collection, then we'd split that collection whenever it was.
Mm-hmm.
You might get $10 to $30 in a month, and it was usually after payday.
Right. Okay. And you went through the Panama Canal?
No,
You weren't on board for that. Okay.
no.
Mm-hmm.
When I went back out, well, when I was on boat duty yet, and my officer, the division officer, was on there, and he wanted me to stay and help take it around because it was getting where we just didn't hardly have a crew enough to run the ship. And there was a time that they couldn't even get it out of the harbor because there wasn't enough personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got out of the hospital and went back out there, they asked me to stay until they got around to the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a chance, but I was ready to get out.
Okay. Now you were telling me earlier you either witnessed or you heard the accident with the Franklin, USS Franklin. Were you on board for that?
No, that was before I got on.
Oh, that was before you got on board. Okay.
The men told me about it, that this destroyer took I don't know whether it tore the anchor loose or how it was, but anyhow, it done damage. It didn't do much damage to the New Jersey. It just kind of scratched the paint good. Probably knocked the guardrails down on the deck. But it tore up the bow of the Franklin pretty bad.
Right.
See, there was a Franklin aircraft carrier.
Right.
That, and I don't remember whether it was the Iwo Jima or the Okinawa when we was in it, and that was when they was really coming after us with the suicide jobs, you know.
Right.
And we could see it burning. It was about 10 miles from us, but we could see that on it. And it was a small carrier. What was the name? Was it Bunker Hill? I can't remember it now. But anyhow, there was a carrier. When I got back off leave, when we went in the dry dock, when I got back, there was a carrier all bowed to heck, a small carrier, baby flat top, I think. And it seemed like it was Bunker Hill or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was out there at the same time that Franklin was hit.
Okay.
And it took, I think it took 3 suicide jobs, if I heard they said. But it was in terrible mess.
All right, so fast forward a little bit. You're about to get out of the Navy. So when did you get out of the Navy again?
On the 12th of June, 1946.
Okay. Now, is this the first time you've been back to the New Jersey since you disembarked?
Yes. I went out and got my stuff off of the New Jersey, what I had left. And then I went back, and I think it was the next day that I went in and was discharged, the 12th of June,
Oh, okay.
1946.
So we're going to fast forward to like a few hours ago. The first time you've seen the New Jersey in, I think you said, almost 70 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your reaction? How did you feel?
Well, you know, I knew it was big,
Mm-hmm.
but I forget how big. You know, I seen it when the first time here, across the river. And I guess it was on the way over here. And when we got up fairly close to it, it just, I don't know, our heart just kind of like I was in love with it. And it was big.
Okay.
I have enjoyed this trip. I can't explain how.
That's great.
How much. I think maybe I was in love with this ocean.
Great. We're going to go back to when you got out. Looking back, how did the Navy life affect you? I mean, how did it influence you over your post-naval career?
I think it made a much better man out of me. I still drink too much, but it wasn't the Navy's fault. But I went back. I went in when I was just got out of my sophomore year, and I went back and I took 2 grades in one, and we only needed 15 credits at that time. And I took 7 subjects, and I had to have American history, and they didn't have it that year. I could have taken a correspondence course, but the professor we had, or the superintendent we had, told me, he said, George, he said, I don't think you want to do that. He said, what you've got here, what you're taking now, he said, is a load. And he said, I would tell you not to do it. So I didn't. I figured I'd go back and take it. I never did, and I really never needed it.
Mm-hmm.
When I got out, I went back to high school. The next year, I got with a fellow, and we got a partnership in painting buildings, houses, barns, inside and out. And we stayed together for that summer, and then I bought him out, and I stayed 1 more year doing it. And then I went to work in an elevator, a grain elevator, and from there I went to a restaurant. My dad had a building that had been built for a restaurant and a bar, and I finished it off and done that for about 6 months and found out that was not my piece of work. And my brother-in-law had a cat and scraper building dams and doing conservation work. I went to work for him that fall and worked up until it froze up. And I was in that construction work for 17 years. I worked on the Oahe Dam for 5 years down there, running blade mostly. Then I came out and I bought one myself and had it for 6 seasons. And then I went down to help my mother run the hotel and do massages. My dad had talked me into doing massage, to take a course in it, of which I did. And that was in 58 and 59. It was a home course. I didn't figure I'd ever use it. I've been in it for 50 years. 51 years. I'm on my 51st year of doing massages. That's my life.
Great. And, of course, family life, how did you,
Well,
did you know your wife before you went into service or after?
When I got out, I was figured that this nurse, she's a beautiful woman, and we dated when we was in school, and I don't know, I just had a feeling that this wasn't going to work. And then I met Alice, my wife, and I went through 2 or 3 girls, 4 girls, 5 girls, and she was right. And we would have been married 60 years if she'd lasted just another week.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And she had bad health and very unstable balance.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd fallen many times. Twice she fell and just her face looked like somebody hit her with a 2x4 right across the face. Her eyes was black, her nose was. She never broke her nose, but never lost any teeth. But her face was just black and blue and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And she done that, and then she fell some more. Well, she had a walker. Our son bought her a walker that had wheels on it. And she started out the door, and I said, well, you better take the walker. She says, I'm just going over and talk to Vicki over at the hotel. So I was about 10 minutes, and I thought, I better go check and make sure. At one time, she was at the Senior Citizen Center, and she left, and I didn't go check on her right away. Then she'd fallen out in about 3 inches of snow and cold, and she'd laid there. She finally got on her cell phone and called her twin sister, and she called me and told me that I was out there. I hated myself ever since, that I didn't go check. And I lifted her up and got her going. We took her to the house. And this time she went out. She was talking about 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. I walked out and I looked to see if she was all right. She was sitting there by Vicki. I walked over there and I said, are you all right? Yep. I said, well, if you're all right, I'm going to go mow. So I went and got the mower, and I was mowing the weeds along the sidewalk. And Vicki's boyfriend, he come running and said she'd fallen over backwards. And she did. She was on this Coumadin pretty heavy. And she fell over backwards and hit her head, put a hole in the back of her head, about the size of my end of my finger. And I asked her, I said, are you all right? She said, yeah, just take me in the house and lay me on the bed. No, I said, we're going to Philip. I said, you're going to Philip. Well, by the meantime, Vicki had already called Lawrence and Patricia. So they was down there. We just loaded her in the car and took her to Philip, because by the time the ambulance crew had got around, we was in Philip. And they took a CAT scan, and she was bleeding inside and outside of the brain. So that was goodbye.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And they flew her into Rapid City, and that's what a neurosurgeon said too. And so we got her booked. So that was 3 years ago, 10th of July.
And you have how many?
I got 6 kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got 4 boys and 2 girls, and they're all doing very good.
Grandkids?
Grandkids, I don't know. I must have 12 or 13, maybe 14 great grandkids. I don't know how many I got.
Okay. Let me go back to the time of service, because we're going to wrap it up if you'd like. But this is the point where I just asked you, are there any stories that you could think of? I know you were talking about one during the storm with the chain. You want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, we were refueling this destroyer, and it was kind of rough, and water was coming over the deck, and there was times that destroyer would be up above us and down, and this fellow was another sailor there, and a wave come over, we went under. When it lifted the chain, and he washed under, and it fell on him. And we got the chain, a bunch of us got the chain picked up and drug him out from under. And he said he was all right, he wasn't hurt. He wouldn't go to sick bay. And he was standing there, and a little bit later, another wave came over and washed him overboard. And he went down between the two ships, and the destroyer backed up and picked him up, and about 3 days later, they brought him over with the bosun chair, and he was all right.
Mm.
But it was pretty
And this is
scary.
this is the starboard side forecastle, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Just so we got a reference.
yeah. Yeah, everything is started, so.
All right. Any other stories, Navy stories you'd like to share?
Well, I can't think of too much now.
Mm-hmm.
Just one thing I found out that rice beer has an awful effect on you. I was sitting there, they brought it, we were going to buy it in quarts, and this bar we was in. We're sitting there, we drank the quart, got another one, got up to go to the can, and my knees fell off it from it just seemed like they was rubbery. I said it was a strange feeling I ever had when I was drinking.
Hmm. Okay. Anything else?
I don't think I can think of anything else right now. I think I've told you about all the old brain is letting loose.
Well, that's great. Okay. Well, again, thank you for your service and welcome home. And also thank you for taking the time for joining us, coming all the way out from South Dakota. This concludes our interview. Again, this is Angelo Pizzullo, manager of the Oral History Program on board the Battleship New Jersey in Camden, New Jersey, where this interview took place. Today is Tuesday, September 5th, 2017. Our interview guest was Mr. George Stroppel from Midland, South Dakota. Again, thank you. This recording, you're welcome. This recording and any transcripts, abstracts, or indexes made from the will be stored in the Oral History Department of the Battleship New Jersey, also at the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, and the New Jersey State Library System. All recordings will be made available to writers, researchers, teachers, and historians. We will also be giving Mr. Stroppel a copy of this interview for his family and future generations to enjoy. Angelo Pizzullo, signing off.
Thank you.